In this Community Spotlight interview, we're chatting with Alisa Boysis, co-founder and creative director for Calgary-based full-service marketing agency Class Act Media. For over 14 years, Alisa has been helping businesses around the world attract their ideal customers and connect with their clients by creating beautiful brands. And today we're talking a little bit about her experience in finding the balance when simultaneously building a career and a business, finding the right partners, and taking your business international. So Alisa, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure.
Likewise. So in a moment, we're going to get into how you built this incredible career that has you working with the likes of Honda Canada, Costa Coffee, ATB Financial, and other kind of big international brands. But before we do, I'd love to know, as someone who's invested over a third of their life in building a career as a powerful company presence builder, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A singer.
Really?
Yes. I'm an educated musician. I come from a family of musicians, and it just so happens that my entire family, they're all musically educated. They were all going that way initially, and nobody ended up being a professional musician. So yeah, it's like a hobby right now. And yeah, I am a singer. I play piano, and that's now just what I do as a hobby. But yeah, when I was a kid, definitely wanted to go into music. And then actually I ended up going into radio broadcasting, journalism in Russia, and ended up dropping out after the first semester to move to Canada. So yeah, and basically in Canada, I kind of found a different path into a new career. Started learning web design, and yeah. I got a degree in that. But yeah, it's been a few steps.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you end up going from television and broadcast and that kind of career path to the design track?
Actually radio broadcasting.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I wanted to work on the radio. I was really into it. Anyway, so when I moved here, I was 18. I was, like I said, pretty much out of high school with like one semester of university behind my back. I didn't really have a lot of speaking practice in English. Like I knew it. I could like read books and everything. I could communicate, but it was not nearly as fluent as you would expect from someone who works on the radio, right? So I kind of looked at that and just decided that, being a journalist assumes a good, solid knowledge and understanding of the culture, of the cultural references, historical references, and this and this and that. So I was always very proud of my knowledge of all of that in Russia. And moving here, I realized that I'm going to have to somehow catch up on like 18 years of whatever educational background, like whatever basically I knew about that culture. Like I have to somehow catch up on that here in order to move into journalism, right? And it just didn't seem realistic to do in a short period of time. So I decided that I should probably go for a career that doesn't require any of that. Not any, but yeah, isn't really based around all of that. So I met a couple of people here. They were both at the time web designers, web developers. And yeah, just kind of made friends with them, and they suggested that I like help them on the project, and yeah, it just kind of like piled on basically. A couple of years later, I decided that I want to get a degree, and I went and got a degree in visual communications. So yeah, my bachelor's it's in advertising technically, like visual communications, but I've basically been designing like brands and websites since then. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And it's kind of like, we'll get into it later, but it seems to follow this common thread of like very intentional capitalization on serendipity that seems to be a theme in your career.
Oh, that is very true. Yeah.
So going from that broadcasting background then into advertising and web design and everything about brand and presence, how did you cross that line going into entrepreneurship?
Oh, I didn't. I never actually intended to get a job. I did spend some time contracting, working for like agencies, but yeah, most of the time, like most of my career, I basically spent working for myself. I was never really, working with an agency definitely helped me, just learn some processes, learn some tips and tricks again, just from the teamwork with other designers. But then teamwork is also a giant aspect in being an entrepreneur. Like you still end up collaborating on projects. You can't do everything on your own, right? But yeah, I think I just really liked the idea of working for myself, which is somewhat of a trend that I'm seeing right now. And maybe that's just because I'm an entrepreneur and I kind of hang out with like-minded people, but people who currently contract for Class Act Media, I have discussed with a couple of them the opportunity of joining us as an employee. And they're like, no, we're okay. We're all right. We like contracting. It's good. Like, yeah, no one's in a rush for some reason to get a full-time official employment. Not sure why, but I think it's kind of like the mindset, and maybe I've just attracted the like-minded people into the company. So yeah, that doesn't mean they're not loyal to what we do. They're gonna like ditch us any second kind of thing. But yeah, it doesn't mean that. It's just they just enjoy working, like having that freedom, if you want. I don't know, I wouldn't call it that, but yeah, like they're a team, right? They're not an employee in this sense. And I think that mindset was what appealed to me initially. Like I like to work in a team, but I don't like to be an employee. So yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it's very different from the like traditional path of going and being like, all right, I'm gonna go get my stable career so that I can get my skill set down and then kind of transition outward. Yours was like, nope, I'm just not gonna do that straight up.
My mom's heart just broke again somewhere when you said that. Because my mom was like, "You should be an accountant." I'm like, "Sure."
Well, it's that common story of being like a creative and being told, no, go for a very,
Mhm.
sustainable, very like solid, path kind of planned out career that, creative careers are always difficult. And you seem to have taken it and gone like, just run with it and just gone, okay, I am a creative, I'm going to own this and I'm going to take that kind of lesser traveled path. And it seems to have worked out really well for you.
Precisely. Yeah, that was a goal. And I mean, I did just mention my mom, but thankfully, she always voiced her opinion, but they never really stood in the way of me going for what I want. So yeah, they definitely support it. She questioned the idea of me getting a degree in design, but yeah, they were always very supportive. And with me, I just knew that that's what I want to do. The creative field path is not gonna be easy. But ultimately, I've always believed in the power of just putting in the work. Just keep working, and it's gonna happen. No matter what you do, no matter what degree you have, keep working for what you love, doing what you're good at, and it's gonna happen.
Okay, awesome. And is that kind of the same principles that you founded Alisa Boysis Design on?
Yeah, I mean, it was Alisa Boysis Design was more of a just like a brand to have to represent me and my work, and get clients through. I guess I didn't really have like an official company with like a mission and a vision at the time. It was seriously just I'm like I need a domain to put some of my work examples on, just to send a link to people. Because yeah, I contracted for so long. I at that time didn't treat it as a future kind of brand, right? I did have that in mind. I always wanted an agency, but I think it was. I don't think it was. I was definitely a bit like too young. I felt like I needed a little more experience, and yeah, it was just a lot of things. And I'm like, hey, it's just not the right time right now. And finally, yeah, a couple of years ago, it ended up being the right time. Yeah,
That's awesome. And a couple of years ago, you're referring to kind of the founding of Class Act with your co-founders, right?
exactly. Yeah. So my business partner Angelica, I met her at Work Nicer at the co-working community. Mm, and we both, I think it was just like the time kind of, just the stars aligned perfectly for us because we were both at that stage when we were looking for someone to collaborate with, not even necessarily a business partner, but someone with a corresponding skill set. Um, and yeah, we were both at the time when okay, like we're contracting, we're good at what we do. Time to take the next step. And for some reason, both of us were kind of leaning towards, like just in our mind, we were leaning towards a partnership. I think with me, I'm not going to speak for her, but with me, I've always felt like um, you're just stronger in a team. Like doing everything on your own, sure you can, but why? You know, um, because it's just so much more interesting to inspiring, even so much cooler, really, to collaborate with someone and to build something together. I think it might just be me. Like I've always had that kind of community-oriented mindset, right? Um, I mean, what was it, 2 years ago, I realized that I'm like one of the, well, actually quite many Chelsea fans in the city, like Chelsea English Football Club. And I realized that there's no official fan club in Calgary, so I started it. Like for most people, it's like, oh, I'm supporting the club. I don't need a giant community around it. And I do. So I started it. I met a bunch of people at a pub, gave them a link to the Facebook group. I'm like, please join. We got it. Like I got it registered with the like official English fan club and everything. But yeah, that's like that community oriented mindset. I think I definitely had it. And so I met Angelica at just the right time to start something bigger.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you
Yeah.
think is that something that you kind of carried the whole way through your career, starting from your very beginnings as a kind of digital presence creator?
Well, yeah, like I just said, I started I even got into web design through someone,
Mhm.
right? So I got into that by collaborating with other young professionals who just needed help at the time. So I think it's always been like the teamwork has always been the giant aspect of everything I do. I'm very kind of collaboration oriented.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really fantastic. So interesting. So is that, I was going to ask like how you started. So you got your start, and before kind of going in, you always wanted to create an agency. So before even going to find a job, am I right in thinking that you got your first clients before you went and found like a serious contract?
I got my first clients before I got my degree. Before I started my degree, sorry, like before I went to school. So, which is kind of funny because when you apply to the now university that I graduated from, you apply with a creative portfolio, and I applied with like my portfolio was entirely digital commercial work because I literally couldn't draw. I did not know how to draw. Like you give me a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm useless.
Really?
Yeah, but my portfolio was pretty solid for. I mean, I look at it now and it horrifies me, but like, yeah, that was in 2008 or nine, whatever it was. That was a good website that I was proud of that I submitted. So there was like a few pieces of work that I submitted, and they were all digital work. And I explained in my like letter of intent that you submit with it that I would love to submit actual drawings, but I don't have any. I don't draw. I don't really like drawing. But I have this massive amount of web work, web and digital stuff that I do like, and that actually still stands. I don't like drawing.
Really?
I don't enjoy it. I don't doodle when I'm on the phone. Like I'm not that kind of person. I sketch when I need to like sketch a logo or something. I make sketches, but that's more just to give me an idea, like just to kind of get the idea out on paper because it's quicker, and then digitalize it. But you'll rarely see me like draw a detailed something to then vectorize.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I've always heard it the other way around, where it's like, oh, I started off drawing and I had all these skills, and then I somehow had to learn to do it on the computer. And you're like, nope, no, I just skipped that step straight up, which is absolutely fascinating.
Well, I had to go back in school. It was funny because I'm sitting there, there's like 20 creatives. We're all going for the same degree, and everyone's like drawing. Everyone's got like massive sketchbooks with like funky characters and whatever they drew from nature. And I'm like, okay, I've got some catching up to do.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so great. Do you happen to remember what your first paid project was?
Yes. I'm not going to show it to you. Actually, I would. I even would, but they redesigned since because that was back in 2007. So yeah, they redesigned since, and I don't know whom they went with, but yeah, that was the project that I got through one of those two friends that I started with. So they got a client, a realtor, like a local realtor in Calgary that needed a website, and they basically developed it, and I designed the UI, like the interface. At the time, with that project, I've actually learned literally everything. I've learned like UI basics of web design. I've learned logo like that was my first attempt at logo design. I got into WordPress immediately with that one. Started learning the back end of it. Started learning some basics of HTML, CSS. So yeah, it was one project that basically just threw me into everything right away. It's funny because I never did that before. I barely played with Photoshop before that project. Yeah,
Really?
with this one, yeah, like I said, with the right mentoring, that's why I still like I believe in that power of collaboration, and I always will. Because with the right team with you, you can do so much.
That's amazing. So you had some good mentors on that project then to kind of get you started off.
Yeah, they helped me from the basically build a website from scratch. Yeah, work with WordPress that I've never seen before. Learn some HTML, CSS that I only knew like the basics of from editing MySpace and whatnot.
Interesting. So that was your first paid project, is getting thrown right into the deep end.
Yeah, pretty much. There, website. Which is kind of funny because when I started working with an agency here, and that's where my experience with working with Honda comes from actually. So I worked with a senior designer with me, and we started a big project in the middle of. No, I think they finished the wireframing stage almost. It was one of the Honda websites. So yeah, they finished the wireframing stage, and then he quit and went to Vancouver. And I'm like, okay, that's gonna be interesting. It's a theme, I guess, with me. So here's this massive amount of work that you know nothing about. Enjoy.
So the second theme to your career is being thrown in the deep end and basically sink or swim.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still afloat.
Yeah, doing well, I would think.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's right.
So when you first started out, did you kind of start off just charging hourly, given that you were having to learn so much at once, or how did you? Do you remember how you charged?
No, I don't remember how I charged. I remember that it was not enough. Um, but that's it. I think it's a theme throughout everyone's early to mid 20s, like even late 20s with a lot of people. Even right now, I want to make more money. No, that's actually something that I keep talking about. I think every student keeps talking about, like every art school student, especially. They do not teach how to estimate time and how to charge for your work at all. And that is something that you can teach, I believe. Yeah, they say that it's difficult. It's everybody has different rates, everybody has different processes, everybody takes different time to do something, but there's also such thing as expectations, right? So you should know how long like designing a logo could take
And
potentially.
is that just practice, basically?
Yes, yes. The thing is, it is practice. It is practice. It's individual, but ultimately, when you're hiring someone, let's say when I'm hiring a designer, I do have certain expectations for how quickly they do the work. I do understand that if it's a junior designer, they will take probably like 3 times the whatever I would take, right? Whatever it would take me to design something. But you can explain that. You can explain that at school. You can definitely explain it to students and tell them, just kind of give them some sort of guide, around how to like price their work. Because yeah, it's very difficult. You have no idea, right? You have no idea how much, because there's no average. There's no such thing as like an average price of the business card design because everybody charges differently. There's no set price. It's not it's not going to buy like a loaf of bread kind of thing when you have like a ballpark. With business cards, I will charge this price. A junior designer will charge a different price. A big agency, like a giant agency somewhere, entirely different price again. So it's mostly just about, I think it's about the time. Like what's I actually suggested to a college recently. I talked to a college here in Calgary, and I'm like, if you guys are planning to ever introduce design as like business course, and any to teach the students any sort of basics of the financial aspects of the profession, it's hard to give them numbers in terms of prices, but it's totally super easy to give them expectations on the amount of hours certain projects take.
Interesting. So you would definitely tie that towards like an hourly rate as opposed to, say, results-based pricing.
Not now. To a junior, yes. To a junior,
Okay.
absolutely. With like as an agency, we price projects. We don't charge per project. We typically do retainers, and what that usually entails is, let's say we get a client, a new company. They need a full brand or a rebrand if it's an existing company. So like a logo, website, social media presence, content, written content, like search engine optimization, PR, video, and we do all of that. What we do is estimate the scope of work, essentially. And based on that scope of work, we create a phase-based approach to their marketing strategy. So yeah, we just present a proposal where we're like, okay, we're going to start with this, and go into that, then go into that, and basically attach a monthly payment to that. This way, they're not paying a lump sum for, let's say, building a website, because not everybody has that lump sum just kind of sitting there.
Well, and if you're
Yeah,
new and you're very typically underestimating how long it's going to take to actually build the website, you get the lump sum up front and go, actually, this took me like 3 times as long as I quoted you to do it.
yeah,
I imagine it
exactly.
makes that situation a little bit easier to deal with. What advice would you give to somebody who is new and has underquoted a project, kind of what to do with that situation?
What to do with underquoting a project? I mean, well, first of all, don't even open Photoshop without a contract in place. So even if it's a simple, like a few pages long agreement that you wrote yourself based on like a template that you got online, something has to be on paper. Ideally, I would get legal advice just to have someone review it. But again, as a junior, you don't always have the money to do that. Put something in paper with signatures and everything, so it's official. The scope of work, and it needs to be detailed. It's not like website, website design. No, exactly how many pages that website is going to take. It's going to have the logo, how many versions you're presenting, and how many iterations you're allowing. That's it. If it goes through, let's say you put in the contract like 2 rounds of revisions for everything, schedule those rounds of revisions. So like they know that on the date, that is their revision number 1. After that, they can send you 15 emails and consider that to be a part of revision 1. Like, that's it. So yeah, it's like they get 2 meetings to discuss everything, and then they send you 1 email with revisions. So everything needs to be in writing. Everything needs to be official, scheduled. Don't be afraid, because people who are a little bit uncertain on their terms of how they work, they're harder to trust, right? If you know that you have a process, that this is your process, it's all official, it's all transparent, all open, this is what you're signing up for, this is what you're paying me for, people will be more inclined to trust you and they'll want to do business with you because they know exactly how it's going to happen. And once they've gone over those 2 rounds of revisions, and that should also be in the contract, there's an additional fee. So you can review it, you can start charging hourly, or you can review the contract after that and sign another one for whatever additions they want to make. Simple. Everything in paper, everything scheduled, everything discussed, like 100% transparent, just so there's no surprises on either side.
And do you find that that's kind of, it doesn't matter what size the business is, if it's big or small, like it's very necessary to have, 1, all those expectations set out in front, but 2, also have the paperwork to back it up?
Even if you're, like a starting 18, 17-year-old designer, absolutely have something on paper, have something written down, just because any sort of a verbal agreement doesn't actually exist. Like, sure it does, but at the same time, can you even rely on your memory to remember exactly what you discussed, exactly what you promised? No, it's always better to have that point of reference. Just so, if they all of a sudden bring up a business card, you're like, no, we didn't discuss a business card, right? Like, that was out of scope. Here's a quote for that. I can design that for you, but that's out of scope of what we discussed. So yeah, it is better. It's definitely better to have everything in writing and official. It helps both sides, right?
Yeah, well, and I imagine once you start bringing in, as you mentioned, like other teammates and kind of you start working on bigger scope projects, it's pretty much critical to your success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, and it's credibility. It's just so much easier to be transparent with your clients like that.
Do you find, having been someone who's worked kind of internationally with companies around the globe, do you find there's any kind of difference between, setting expectations for somebody in, like, say, Europe versus North America?
Yes. Typically in Europe, they expect everything to be done a lot faster. That's just I guess it's just the natural kind of rhythm of life there. Just from what I remember, even living in Russia, I was quite surprised when I moved to Canada and I started looking into, getting some, I don't know, any sort of paperwork, anything that involves any level of bureaucracy lasts about 3 times longer here. But then planning everything, trips, like telling your work that you need a vacation, right? In Canada, for some reason, you need a lot longer for that. Whereas in Russia, it's like, let's go to Greece in a couple of weeks. You just get up and go. Whereas here, it's like, no, let's plan it for like 3 months from now, 4 months from now, kind of thing. You really need a good like heads up, heads up to work, to prepare yourself, to book the flights, like a few months ahead. It just tends to happen. So same thing work-wise. Work-wise, they're also like, okay, here's the project. It needs to be done in a couple of weeks.
Interesting. So you're definitely working on shorter timelines. Do you find that you charge more to give it on that shorter timeline then?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it has to be done, and it's absolutely fair, and everybody gets it. Like, yeah, that's not how things are done here typically. So in order to take on that project, I'm going to have to rejig the schedule here a little bit and maybe, move some of the clients or hire someone in addition, right, to the team, like hire someone to do that. And that, again, that involves me spending money. So please, like, compensate me for the money that I'm spending on the additional designer. Yeah. So it's fair. They get it. Again, very transparent about it.
Okay. So it's good that you brought up kind of bringing in teammates. At what point did you start kind of bringing in teammates to help you out with the workload that you were bringing in through your companies?
Class Act Media?
Both Class Act Media and Alisa Boysis Design.
Okay, I guess, well, as myself, it was kind of sporadic. Like I said, I started working in the team, then I contracted as like just an individual. And then when I took on clients, depending on what the project is, sometimes it was, it involved a level of web development that I didn't really even want to get into, just the depth of it. So I would bring on a teammate and collaborate. And honestly, it started right away as kind of like teamwork process. But I never hired anyone for my brand, like under my brand. It was always collaboration. So I would always just outsource to a friend, a colleague, like somebody I know. somebody I've worked with. With Class Act Media, we started hiring, well, again, right away, because Angelica already had Rachel, who still works with us. Rachel became part of the team just naturally because she worked with Angelica. She was helping Angelica with account assistance, social media stuff, a few different things. We all wear multiple hats. And yeah, she still works with us. And I guess after her, we started hiring. Oh my God, I don't even remember when we hired the first person. I think it was sometime in the middle of or beginning of last year. Yeah, so it happened pretty quickly. Like a few months in, we started hiring. Simply because we just realized that as much as we would like to do everything ourselves, we shouldn't if we want to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to my question about like growing your career and growing a business at the same time is kind of its own unique juggling act. How do you manage and balance that workload?
Oh boy, I think I'm learning. I think we're still learning, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to get used to it. Was it you I recently had a conversation with about that, or somebody else? Because Angelica and I, we've spent a good chunk of last year literally teaching ourselves to take time off, because as a solopreneur, as just an individual, I tend to work from like 7 to 11, 7 days a week. And I can't say that it was a very healthy dynamic. My friends were like, they would call me, they're like, what are you doing? Like, I'm working, of course. When are you not working? I'm like, in a couple of weeks we can book something. It was a little bit ridiculous. And as much as I love my job, and I love what I do, I absolutely love it. I don't even treat it like work. As soon as I get to, whether it's design or sales or anything to do with any of the hats that I wear, let's put it that way. Whatever it is, I absolutely love it. But it does get to an unhealthy level, especially when you're working from home and you stop feeling like you're home. There's no clear distinction between like, this is where I work, and this is where I'm resting and having me time. And I think it's very important to not lose that. And that's why I got a membership at the co-working space, because there needs to be, at work, there needs to be a culture within you that you are in a workspace. You're talking to people, building their careers, like whether it's entrepreneurs or, even if you like work a job and go to the office, like there needs to be that professional conversation happening, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn. That's how you get inspired. That's how you brainstorm. And I felt like that was definitely lacking. And especially, like coming home from work felt great. But even then, I would come back home and start working again. So last year, I literally told myself, I'm like, that's it. I am committing myself to take like 2 days off, Saturday, Sunday off, unless something is on fire. I'm going to be away from my computer. And I've done that. I've successfully done that for a few months, and I'm loving it right now. And I can definitely say that the sense of guilt that bothers a lot of people with that, it's not there anymore. I'm enjoying my time, and I come to work on Monday and I'm refreshed. I'm refreshed. I'm excited. I feel better. And I honestly, I'm starting to really despise that whole like hustle culture where people almost look down, like it's basically kind of frowned upon to take time off.
Right.
They're so proud of that, constantly like putting 16-hour days. And I just looked at them like, that's not right. That is because that doesn't define you. Like your work, yes, it does. Sorry, absolutely it does. You are what you do. I'm a strong believer in that. But you're also a person outside of work. You can't just be one. I can't just be a business owner. I can't just be a designer. I also need to be a friend, a daughter, a girlfriend. I need to fulfill many aspects of my personality.
So how do you balance that where, now you've got to set aside, essentially it's going to sound terrible, but you've lost about 20 hours of productivity that would otherwise be going to work. How do you make that work on your throughout the rest of the week?
See, it's like that verbiage. And I agree with you totally. It like you lose the actual like time of putting in the work. How I make it work? I don't know. I just realized that if I do that, nothing sets on fire. Like nothing crashes and burns.
So basically just being like, no, I'm committed to making this work, and then you just figure it out basically one way or the other.
Yeah, you learn to set reasonable expectations with your clients. I think having time off helps you be more productive during the day. because you have, you basically switch your brain a little bit, right? You stop working, focus on you, focus on doing, running errands and whatnot, doing something else other than work, which helps your brain take a little bit of rest and refresh and just reboot. Next morning, you're ready. Whereas I don't think it was the case. It was just like the point of exhaustion where you just turn into a robot next to your computer and that's all you know. I don't think it helps productivity in any way. You just burn out eventually. You open your computer and you're like, I don't want to do this. And that was actually a scary thought that I had sometime like in the beginning of last year, just before I went to England. I literally came to the point when I opened my computer and I'm like, I hate it. I don't want to do it. And then I'm like, that's not me. I love what I do. I really love my job, but it's just, that's all I see. That's it. And it was just such a toxic thought that when I left for a week and I went on vacation and I came back and the pandemic started. So like with all of that, nothing crashed and burned. My business is still there. We're still working. I was gone for a week. I took 2 meetings during that week. That was it. And I'm still here. The business is still here. I definitely needed that week to just realize that if I take a step away for a week, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to ruin my business. That's it.
That's a really good takeaway. Yeah, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs find it challenging, and honestly, their families are turning and be like, all you do is work. And it is kind of that very easy trap to fall into. So aside from going for kind of a better work-life balance in 2021, what's kind of your main goal for this year as a business owner and kind of as a career person in design?
There's a few. We typically kind of sit down and set some sort of financial goals, sets the goals with like where the company is going. So we have a sub brand with Class Act Media. It's called Altmed Creative. And the difference is like from Class Act Media, the services are all the same. The only difference is Altmed specifically works with healthcare and health tech clients. And with the Canadian market being the way it is, like we do have healthcare clients in Canada, but we've given it a thought and realized that it could be a good idea to take it to the States. So the goal is to, by the end of the year, to have presence in the United States. We have 2 clients there already under Altmed, but it would be great to have physical presence there as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So that's for Class Act. And then what's your personal goal as creative director?
My personal goal as creative director, I would love to grow a team. My team right now, I have three designers that are contracting, and I again seeing the kind of the trends these days. I'm not gonna tell you that I want them full time, even though it would be amazing. But yeah, my goal right now is to keep the team that I have, to grow it, to make sure that my team is represented by designers who share our values, who produce the quality of work that we expect from them and that they learn from me. It's been super important. I've been receiving good feedback from them, and it makes me really, really proud and makes me really, really happy. That's what I wanted. That's what I've always wanted to do. And for me to just feel right now and see that I have something to share with younger professionals, I think I get the most fulfillment from that right now. Just to see that, of course, I'm still learning. I'm learning tons from them, tons, because we're working with a designer and she's sharing her screen and showing me something, and I'm like, whoa, how did you do that? Like I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that. It's just learning constantly for me as well. But my goal is to grow a team, to hire a couple more designers, and that comes with closing accounts and everything. But yeah, as a career goal, I am where I want to be right now. And I guess I just want to kind of become better at what I already do. Just keep learning and make sure I provide value in my position.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Before we go, one more question. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start a design-based business but didn't know where to start?
Oh, you're never going to know where to start. Just start. That's it. It's like, yeah, that's it. Just do it. Just go for it. Like there's no advice, there's no recipe, right? There's no it's going to happen. Like I said earlier, if you keep doing the work, it's going to happen for you. If you have a goal to start an agency, you don't know where to start from, get a client, incorporate, you have an agency. That's it.
Plain and
From then
simple.
on, exactly. Get a client, incorporate. That's it. And then get another client, and another
Just
client,
take it one step at a time.
and another client, and then hire someone. Like, it's going to happen. Just keep working towards it. Picture what you want. That agency. Like that, however many people are working with you. Like, I have a team in mind kind of thing, right? It's like, this is going to be my dream. What the agency that I want Class Act Media to grow into. Picture that. And then what do we do? What do we need to have an agency? We need clients. Get a client.
Okay, awesome. Well, there you have it. This has been great. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.